Today is our 14th year anniversary.
14. It's our anniversary.
That's crazy.
It's wild.
14 years. I do we do we look that young, y'all?
We got married when we were 6 and 7 years
Yeah.
old.
For the people that are listening on Apple or Spotify, they're like, we can't see you. Go ahead and jump over to YouTube. Download, but jump over to YouTube.
Right.
Thank you guys for jumping in this journey with us for this whole Let's Dig thing. We would never thought we'd be back here again.
True that.
14 years today, married. 14 years strong.
And 10 almost broke us.
Yeah, 10
Year
did break
number
us.
10 broke us.
It did break us, but we here, baby.
Better than ever.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is
Been
crazy.
through a lot. Been through a lot. Hey, I want to take a moment and just say what's up to everybody. Today is going to be a very special conversation. We're going to share with y'all, honestly, the three biggest things that we wish we would have known before we got married. The three biggest things we wish somebody would have just took us at our little baby cheeks and shook our face and say, listen, trust me, light skin. Well, I wasn't light skinned, but
Oh,
trust me, we smooth wave. Oh, you remember I
baby
used to
face?
rock the do rags
Oh,
and wave caps?
sure did.
I had a lot of hair, y'all, in my head.
You didn't have a lot. Oh, well, you had your
Well, when we
fro.
first met, remember I
That's
had
true.
the
When you had your
fro
fro, you
and
did
I
have a
cut the
lot.
fro and I had a head full of waves.
That's true.
Remember that? That was crazy. And then I shaved my head bald one day because I was bored, and then we're here now. And I never stopped. Actually,
You
loved it.
never looked back, yeah.
But yo, three things that I wish somebody would have just like
Beat us over the head with it.
beat us over the head with
Yeah,
it. It was like,
because we
yo,
were young and we wouldn't have listened to a lot of people.
yeah, because we loved each other.
Mhm, and we felt like, "We know everything.
Yeah,
Let's get married."
yeah, yeah. It's wild. 14 years and we're here, baby. Let's jump into it, honestly.
Alright,
Already, let's dig.
so let's dig. But put it in perspective, I when we got married, I had just turned 23 and you were turning
I turned 21 like the next month.
no, 22.
Oh, 22 the next month.
Yes, the next month you're turning
Yeah.
22. So, we were young,
Mhm.
we were Bible college graduates, so we you were working full-time in ministry already.
Yeah.
So to say we listened to the people around us was true, but we also felt like we knew a lot. We felt like we knew exactly what we were doing.
Right.
Um, I even said to you earlier, like, I think I thought I was grown up already.
Mhm.
I thought that I was done. Like I knew who Danny Lee was at 23,
Yeah.
and now sitting here at 37, I laugh at myself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even close to the same person I was at 23, now 37. And I know I won't be the same person at 47 that I am
Yeah.
sitting here right now today.
So for me, it was a little bit opposite. Like I knew who I was
Mm,
and I was boastful about it.
mm.
And all these years later, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I was so naive and so proud of all of those weaknesses that I bragged about.
You were a little
I'm
cocky.
like, I'm very headstrong.
You're
Like, okay,
so
you
true.
idiot. What are you talking about? What are you bragging about?
You idiot.
I know exactly what I want. And now I'm like, well, yeah,
Mm,
you wanted to go down the pits. You wanted
oh
to,
my god.
really struggle.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So I do wish I knew how many changes there would be for me or how much growing up there was still left for me before I
Yeah.
got married.
Right.
But I would say if I had to say like, okay, here's one thing I really wish I would have known before I got married, and that would have been to maintain my identity.
Mm.
At first I had maintain independence and I kept misspeaking it actually when we were like going over our notes and what we were going to talk about. I kept saying it wrong. I kept saying maintain identity. And then I realized, no, independence in a marriage isn't what's the important thing to keep.
Right.
My identity was the important thing to keep. And I lost that in my marriage.
Yeah.
I
That's wild.
blended in. I heard so many years of, um, you know, God made man and woman and created them to be one, which is true.
Sure.
But he also didn't take Danny Lee and create this whole human being with gifts and talents and things that he wanted to use and then was like, "Okay, marry Pierre and lose all of that.
Lose all of it. So you're
Lose all
saying
of it."
so that first one we're saying to
Maintain identity.
maintain identity. That's actually really good advice that no one gave us when we were young. So
No.
we lost ourselves in each other.
Yeah.
Being young, just in love, straight up Romeo and Juliet we were.
Yep.
And we
But we were
just
like the church Romeo and Juliet.
of
Like you
course.
were already on staff. So I was like, oh, Pierre's office. Like it
Yeah.
was a whole thing for us. So we were
Yeah.
like church version of Romeo and Juliet.
But like we lost ourselves in each other,
Yeah.
and I remember that feeling of being a young couple and having other people that were couples around us. And I remember the moment they started dating, like we never saw them again. We stopped hanging out, all those type of things. We just wanted what each other wanted. You know what I mean? And now
Right.
I think about it, I'm like, that's stupid.
Stupid.
That literally doesn't make sense that we just wanted what each other wanted.
I mean, people would say, hey, Danny Lee, are you guys going out to eat with us after church? And I would say, you know who to ask. He's the boss. Can I not
Yeah.
say whether I want to go to Chili's or not?
Yeah.
I
Right.
couldn't because I'd be like, well, just ask Pierre. He's the boss. Like I
Yeah.
literally lost.
And I was like,
And I
that's
was,
right.
that's
That's
true.
right. I'm the
You did
boss.
love that.
What you asking her first for? You need to ask me. I'm the boss, right?
But and that's just like a small, like version of it. But it did flow into every aspect of who I
Every
was,
aspect of our
every
life.
aspect of our marriage, who I was as a person. I really, I really lost my identity
Yeah.
in our marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you guys think about that? Like, what's your thoughts on that? Maintaining your identity. It's not just in marriage. It's not just in dating. I mean, it's in relationships all over the place, right? Some of us we get new jobs and we lose ourselves, right? We lose ourselves in the vision of the job or where you're working and where you're playing at or where
It's
you're
true.
serving at, like if you're church and things like that. And you forget that God actually put some things on your heart.
Right.
God put some things on you. He gave you vision. He gave you gifts. And we get so caught up, right? Because we do want to fulfill the visions of those that we're working around or those that we're in relationship with that we lose ourselves. So it's like, what are things that you can do? What's something that you would say to really encourage somebody? Say, okay, here's how you maintain your identity. Because I don't know if you realize the term that you're using when it comes to maintaining. That means maintenance.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
means weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, annually, quarterly, whatever it means
Yeah.
to go through maintenance through your identity to make sure that you're still functioning properly. Otherwise, years down the road, like a car, you'll blow up, right? It's like
Right.
your car, you go through that whole maintenance situation. So like what's your thoughts on that?
I would say a big so I talked about this book in a few episodes back. It was The Power and the Identity of a Woman
Yeah.
by Dr. Miles Monroe. And reading that really, really like reignited who I was, but more importantly, like who God called me to be, what God put inside of me, what is my purpose, what is my gifting, what is my calling. Um, and those will change in seasons,
Right.
but reminding myself who God says I am more than who I think I am.
Mm,
Reminding myself who God says I am more than who what people say I am or what job I'm in that season. I think that is something that women have to work through a lot. Of our seasons change a lot. If we have kids, our seasons change.
yeah.
If we change jobs, our seasons change. If our husband's job, our season like if our husband's job changes, our season changes.
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of changes over life. But if I would have reminded myself, like, no, 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 this is what God says you are, this is who God says you are. And all these other outside factors can change, but you don't change
Yeah.
in the sense of you are a daughter of the king, you are forgiven, you are wonderfully loved, you are wonderfully created. All of those things. If I would have had that deeper foundation and not let the outside factors change me, it would have been a lot easier.
Yeah.
So I think that goes back to maintaining that identity, reminding myself who God says I am, and not letting my circumstances dictate who I am.
Yeah. So honestly, essentially, it sounds like we're saying reminders are the biggest thing to maintenance,
Yeah.
right? You look at your car, right? Dashboards, right? The other day I took the Jeep to the shop and I was like, oh my gosh, the brake light keeps coming
Yeah.
on. I'm like, the brake light keeps coming on. So y'all, I take this car to the shop and I'm like, I just left the car there for the day. They're like, yeah, buddy, can you leave it? I'm like, bruh. The moment they say, can you leave it? I'm like, all right,
It's
I
not
already know.
good. It's
It's
not
not
looking
looking
too
too good.
good.
I already know that. So I'm like, man, you might as well keep this month because I already know what y'all gonna say when y'all call me back. Y'all gonna say it's a bunch of money. So the guy calls me back in a few hours and he said, hey, it's your sensor,
Mhm.
the sensor that tells you that the brake needs to be repaired or that your tire pressure is low. He said it's faulty and that needs to be
Which
replaced.
is so crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So I'm like, it's actually not even your brakes. That's what he's telling me. It's not
Mhm.
your brakes. It's
It's
the
the
sensor
sensor.
that indicates that your brakes need to be maintained or checked
Right.
or repaired. Of course, you know what I said. I said, "How much?" He's like, "It's gonna be 430 or like 450." I was like, "Yeah, you know what?
For the sensor?
Yeah, oh
Oh,
yeah. I never even told
no.
you.
You did not tell
That's how
me.
much." I was like, "You know what? I'm coming to pick up the car right now. I can sense when when the brakes aren't working." I said, "I'll know." So don't take my advice on this, but apply this to when it comes to maintaining right our identity
Yeah.
in marriage, in relationship. Anytime that I've gone through a situation where I was really frustrated with life or frustrated with where I was, it had nothing to do with the people around me. It had nothing to do with you. It had nothing to do with my employers. It had nothing to do with
True.
business partners and people that I'm in collaboration with. It all had to do with, for me, it all had to do with the times I just forgot my purpose and what I was doing.
So true.
So maintaining identity in your relationships through every season, remembering who you are. And we talked about this in one of our episodes, right? Balance and boundaries. If you haven't heard it, go back and check it.
Go check it
Like
out.
we could tag it here somewhere or go through all of our videos, go through all of the podcasts and find it. It's called Balance and Boundary, just crafting balance, right? And boundaries in your relationships. And so we talked about that, about understanding the seasons that we're in. That if
Yeah.
if you're a palm tree, there's gonna be some seasons you're doing real good. But knowing your identity as a palm tree, knowing that the seasons when you're not doing good, know who you are. Know that it's not your time. Some of you guys who are realtors, you understand how that works.
So
There
true.
are the seasons, oh, things are popping off. Like you're getting sales, you're doing house visits, you got showings, all this stuff. You're selling. And there's other seasons like Christmas, not looking too good for you,
The
right?
market is dry because
Mark
no one
is
knows to move
dry.
during Christmas.
Right? Right? It's dry. But if you're in retail,
Christmas is popping.
it's your season, baby.
Yeah.
Could you imagine you being a realtor and being frustrated during your dry season because things aren't working out as it is? And you're looking at the retailers and say, man, but they're doing good. It's understanding your identity, understanding your lane, understanding who you were called to be, understanding the gifts that you have, understanding the tools that were given to you specifically. So, as Danley talks about this, I love that how you say reminders, reminding yourself, buffers, right? Checking your dashboard, having different things in your life that are indicators to tell you that's not your lane, that's not who you are, or knowing your lane. In our relationship, it's you knowing like, hey, that's just not who I am.
Yeah.
We've had to face that in our relationship
Yeah.
because early on in our marriage, I got really frustrated with you because you weren't doing the things that I thought you should be doing
Right.
as a wife. And you was always trying to hit this benchmark that was always moving. The goalpost was always moving because
Mhm.
you lost your original identity.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if you knew just who you were
Yeah.
and being self-aware to say,
Yeah,
babe, like
that's not gonna
that's
happen.
just not who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that from a stubborn place. I'm not saying that because I'm hard-headed and I don't want to learn new things. I'm telling you, by nature, I am not wired like that.
Right.
These are the things that I do bring to the table.
Right.
So maintaining identity, I think if somebody would have told us that so many years ago, like we wouldn't have gone through the things that we've gone through
So
if we
true.
would have understand like, hey, don't lose yourself in this relationship.
100%.
Don't lose yourself in this job. Don't lose yourself in this business. Don't lose yourself in your friendships. Like, don't just be going left and right because everybody in your circle, right? It's like the classic saying of like, if everybody jumped off the cliff, would
Would
you
you
jump?
jump too?
Right? And some people be like, well, if everybody's doing it, I guess I'm doing it. Well, you're going to straight up die. Talk about losing yourself, right? But understanding what you have in your hand, I wish we would have known that when we got into this relationship at an early age.
Yeah, it would have made a big difference. And even as you're talking about losing yourself in those jobs, like I can even empathize with that of sitting at a job and being like, "Why am I here? What happened? Where?" And you would literally say like, "Babe, you forgot why you're there? Did you forget what you're doing there? Like, you're not there for that. You're there for something else. You're there for this." Like reminding yourself of why I'm here, what am I doing? And so with your relationships, reminding yourself who you are, why am I in this relationship? Because I do believe this is the person that God's brought into my life, and that we will be able to do certain ministry things or certain things together. We make each other stronger, and that God will get glorified out of a relationship. But to do that, I have to remain and maintain my identity.
And now from a word from our sponsors, the local law enforcement. You guys know we're city people. We live out in the city, and so there's just always just
Sirens in our
sirens. Either
episodes.
I don't know, somebody's dying
It's
or
because
someone's
we
getting
live
robbed.
close to the hospital, so there's always fire
True.
trucks and
Fire station's right here
ambulances.
too. The police
Yeah.
station. Well, it's all down here. So I think there's some more coming too.
There's
So
Where's the chopper? Because there is a helicopter
hey,
that
our
comes as
sponsors are
well.
taking. I know there's a chopper right there. Okay, looks like they're still coming. I'm gonna take this moment to pause real quick.
Wait,
Let's let them finish. Okay.
I was gonna say, if you like these episodes and you feel like you are getting fed and you are being stretched and you're growing and you're just really enjoying these conversations with me and Pierre, I want you to like, subscribe, comment on our videos, and send this to someone. Make sure you join our community that's on Instagram, Facebook,
All that.
TikTok. We're on all of them. So jump over there, but make sure you click the bell and subscribe.
Yeah, and talk back with us too. So
Yes, we want to hear from you.
if there's topics or things that you've heard us say that you're like, man, I really enjoy that. Oh, can you guys elaborate on that? Like, we want to know, like, is this adding value? Like, is it really hitting the mark for you? So share that. All right, let's keep moving. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So we said, all right,
Maintain
maintaining.
identity.
The second one, I would say, it's understanding that communication is key.
Oof, communication. We could talk about that one for hours.
Communication is key to everything. Even maintaining identity is
Yeah,
communicating properly
true.
our identity, understanding our boundaries, right? Communication is literally the key to get you through every situation, every single door that we're going through. Right? People say, "Hey, divorces happen and people break up because of money." I think it's actually the communication of money.
True.
I think it's the misunderstanding of money. The two not talking about how do you perceive money? How do I perceive money? And let's talk about it. I used
Yeah.
to use this scenario for an example. Let's say tonight I'm hanging out with my friends after church, and you know, you guys, we come home like with the kids, and the guys text me, it's like, yo, we're gonna grab some burgers or we're gonna go eat. And I was like, you cool if I go eat? Cool. I asked, okay, cool. Then I told them yes. All right. So there's that. But then we show up and we go out to eat, and now the bill comes, and the bill is 200-300 bucks. And I'm feeling all jolly in my heart. It's better to be a giver and not a taker. And I want to be generous. I said, you know what, guys, it's on me. I go ahead and say, boom, $300 right here. I'll pay for everybody. So now Dan and Lee, now tomorrow,
This is hypothetical, by the way.
this is
We
hypothetical,
have
right?
not done
Because
this.
we've always communicated very well. Tomorrow, Dan and Lee looks at
Wait, you just said because we've always communicated very well
we've always communicated very well in this topic,
in this topic.
like in
Okay.
this subject. You look at the bank statement and you're like, $300 at McDonald's? Well, let's find something
McDonald's.
else. At Applebee's,
Here we go. Chili's.
at Chili's, or for all the California people, In and Out. Right? First of all, $300 at In and Out. What'd you guys eat? Y'all went in on them burgers.
Be wild.
You went in on them double doubles. Double doubles. All right. She looks at it and I said, well, I felt on my heart to pay for everyone. God put it on my heart. So now she's gonna be sitting here thinking, like, is she gonna be mad at God or mad at me? She's gonna be frustrated with me
You.
because I never communicated to her ahead of time. So now some people say, man, you never know what to do with money. You always this with money, always this, never that. Da, 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 da. But really, ultimately, it's because there's never been communication about it.
So true.
Understanding that communication is key for everything. I mean, even for us chasing our dreams at a young age, like when we got together, I used to always share with you, and I'd always communicate with you the things that I'm
Mhm.
passionate about
It's true. And what you saw for yourself
and what I
in
saw
your
for myself.
career.
Yeah, with my career and being a musician, I
Yeah.
wanted to travel. I wanted to tour, I want to do these things. And we were very young. None of that stuff happened for 10 till 10 plus
It's
15
true,
years.
and then people would ask me, "How do you do it when he's on the road?" And I would say, like, "I just he always told me it's what he wanted, it's his dream," and so I knew that's what I was signing up for
Yep.
when
So
we got married.
so I used to communicate that. And I get it. Some of y'all are listening to this and saying, like, well, I don't know, I don't really know what I want to do yet. And it's not fair because I can't communicate it now. Here's what I would say when it comes to communication. Like with the people that you are in serious relationship with, I would say this all the time. As soon as you start thinking it, start sharing it.
Yeah,
Not with everybody,
right.
not with your enemies, not with your haters, not with those that are against you and aren't for you. I'm talking with those that you fully trust, that you could be accountable to,
And
right?
vulnerable with,
And you
right,
could be vulnerable with,
right.
that I could sit down with you and say, "Hey, so I have this thought, been thinking about it for a few days, and I just thought it's time for me to share it with you." Communication is key because what you're not going to do is years down the road, you buy that boat or do something random. You're like, well, I've always wanted to buy a boat, or I've always wanted to start a business, or I've always wanted to do this. And your partner that's in your life is saying, always, since
You
when?
never told me, right.
You've never told me.
You know, I was sitting with a group of girls a few months ago, and it was me and 3 other girls. Another one of the girls was married to someone outside of her race as well, and the friend asked, "For you 2 who married outside of your race, what is the hardest thing about that and being in an interracial couple?" And my first thing was communication. It is one of the hardest things because we grew up in such different areas of the country, in such different cultures, such different backgrounds. Communication has been one of the hardest things for us to figure out.
Right.
I grew up in Midwest America where a lot of things are said that are like implied.
Yeah.
You grew up in South Florida, in a Haitian community where a lot of your family members were learning English for the first time,
Yeah. And you
so
don't,
words were very
yeah. And
verbatim.
you don't assume everyone understands things the way that you
Understand
understand it.
it, right.
And so we never did that because so we always communicate like, what do you mean? Or what are you trying to say by that?
And I think naturally too, East Coasters, New Yorkers, East Coasters, they are just very I don't know if blunt is the right word, but
Yeah.
very,
I mean, very straight talk. So like
straightforward,
I'm
yeah.
not trying to say anything. What I was trying to say is exactly what I
As
said.
Caucasians in the middle of America, we be around the
Boy,
bush
you be so
a
confusing.
lot.
Like all the time, like, what are you implying on? What are you trying to say? What I'm trying to say, or it's like every time we get into arguments, right?
We've talked about
Or
this.
I won't. Sorry, I can't say arguments. To all y'all Christian people. Whenever we get into heated,
Intense
fellowship,
times of fellowship.
heated, intense fellowship moments,
No,
right?
y'all, we fight. We
Yeah,
are very open about
we
that.
fight for this, right?
We fight for this.
Anytime we get into those moments, like I'd have to ask him, like, what are you trying to say? And the next day she'll come back and say, I guess what I was trying to say. Right. Typically I never say that because I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I said what I was
Actually,
trying to
that's
say.
frustrating when we have an argument or no, not even an argument. When I don't comprehend what he's saying, he refuses to say it a different
I'm
way
like, Chat
because he's like,
GPT,
there's no other way to say it. I'm like, there is obviously a different way to say it. And what you're saying is not comprehending to me.
yo,
Say it a different
I'm like,
way.
Chat GPT, we've assessed, we've processed, and this is the best form that this thing could be communicated. There is no
This
other
guy is
way
such a
to say
computer.
it. There is no other way to
He
say
will
it.
literally say it 3 times around. He's like, "There's no better way to say it." And I'm like, "We'll try because it's
No,
not
there's no
working."
other way to say it. If
So stubborn.
I've assessed and it's the best form of saying it. But communication is key. It's so important, like in our relationship. And I know somebody said that to us because we did go through like premarital counseling, like
We
when we got
did.
married, like we did that, right? But not to have the emphasized moment of like, listen, most of the time when you guys will get frustrated
Mhm.
about anything, it's because there is a breakdown in communication. When
Mhm.
it comes to communication, there are two sides of it, right? There's the communicator and there's the communicatee,
Mhm.
right? There's a
Yeah.
person that's saying it and there's a person that's receiving it.
Yeah.
And us understanding that we receive things differently and we say
Yeah.
things differently.
That's so
So
true.
understanding that, right? And then there's also all the non-verbals when it comes to communication. Communication non-verbally, that's key. All forms of communication is so important. Most of our frustration at it in our earlier stages was that.
It's true. And it's still a touchy point, like when you walk around the house and you breathe heavy. it, like, stresses me out
Right.
because it's a nonverbal communication of something I grew up with,
Yeah.
and so I automatically think you're mad, and you're like, "I'm just breathing." I'm like, "But why are you breathing so
Because
loudly?"
my Apple Watch is making me go through breathing test.
I'm like, "Well, it feels like you're mad and that I did something wrong."
I'm mad, I'm
So
chilling, just breathing, trying to get my heart rate right.
so communication in verbal and nonverbal, I wish that someone would have helped us learn better earlier, like,
Yeah.
broke that down for us. They told us, they told love languages and that communication aspect, but they didn't really I don't think we even knew at
Yeah.
that point how differently you spoke and how differently I received and vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, that's so interesting. So interesting. Are we ready to jump into the third one?
3rd one, let's do it.
All right. The third one. So last but not least, probably the most important thing out of everything that I wish somebody would have emphasized to us. And I know it's been told to us, right? But I'm gonna say to fully establish your foundation, fully establish like what you built your relationship on. Fully establish why are you here? Fully establish everything that it took to build that foundation, right? Because there's gonna be times in your relationships, some of the pillars will be broken. Some of the
Mhm.
things that were compartments in your relationships, it will be destroyed.
Yeah.
But if the foundation is solid, you can rebuild anything else on top of that. Having a rebuild foundation, we had to do that, and it was
Yeah.
hard.
It was hard.
It straight up broke us. It was the hardest thing in our relationship of like, you know what? Like, what do you even believe?
I think our foundation really got built on us being that Bible college couple and that it was built a lot around you being in ministry.
Yeah, that, and I think it's also like just the whole American dream type of thing. You
Mm,
just think like, I mean, think about it. How many times in life did we think like, okay, we are behind in life
right, because we haven't bought a
because we haven't
house,
bought a house yet?
because we only had 1 kid after 4 years, and then we didn't have another kid for
Right.
another 6 years, like, it's all those factors
Yeah.
that play into what we thought we were chasing for, but in reality, we didn't establish, like, "Hey, this is why we're getting together, this is why we believe this is what God's called us to do," and that all those other outside factors were not foundation,
Right.
they're just outside factors. They're things that we may attain as we go, but that's not why we're doing this.
Yeah, foundation is so key, man. Like, I think it's the biggest thing. Like, understanding like moral values, understanding like why we doing this. We don't do this because that's just what people do.
Right.
Like, that's messed up. And in your foundation for us, we established at an early stage that God would be the center of everything that we do.
That was there for sure, and I think it's the only reason why we're still here today.
That's why we're still here. Because some people say above everything, what you should have, make sure you keep love, make sure you keep romance. Yeah, all that stuff is gonna come in and out because of your relationship, because of the season that you're in. But I'm here to tell you, the Bible says that, and we know this, that God is love.
Is love.
So it's not just love that we needed in our relationship. It was God
Yeah.
that we needed in our relationship. It was God. And in love, you guys know the classic Bible chapter. Okay, for those of you that don't know where to find this, in First Corinthians chapter 13, right?
13,
That's the
chapter of
classic
love.
love, the chapter of love in the Bible. Go and find it. Get yourself a Bible. Open up that Bible app. Google it. First Corinthians chapter 13. It talks about above everything, man. Love is so important. That God is love, and in love
Mhm.
is everything out. Matter of fact, I got my Bible right here.
Go
Let's pull it
ahead.
up. We're gonna pull it out right now. About to do a little Bible study. Those of you that are watching on YouTube, right? And then for those of you that are reading the closed caption, right here, it's my Bible right here. I already went ahead and tagged it, little bookmarker. I love this, man. Like, love is patient.
Mm,
Because some people would say, like, oh, you need to have patience in marriage. Yeah, you need to have love.
right,
You know, um,
and these are
um,
characteristics of
yeah,
love.
yeah. It says that you need to be, like you need to have respect and kindness, and you need to have love. That's all it is. So it says love is patient, love is kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. I be having to work on that sometimes because sometimes, depending on where I am in my life, I be rude to you sometimes.
Aw, thank you for saying that.
Yeah. And because love is constantly flowing through me, I'm able to check it and I'm able to come back and say, I love you, or put my hand around you, or cuddle you, or kiss you, or do a little nice act of service.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It said it does not demand on its own way. Some of us are manipulating the people that we are in relationship with, right? It doesn't demand of its own way. It said it's not irritable. It's not irritable. Dan Lee had to work on that, boy, because the amount of
It's not
times
my
you
fault.
be
It's
so
only every
irritated.
28
I'm like,
days. It's
see,
not
that's
my
not fair. That's
fault.
messed up. We're not gonna have that
It's
conversation. It's
true.
not fair to me that women, you guys can just every
It's
20
not our fault either. It's
every
actually Eve's fault.
you telling
Let's
me
just lie it down right there.
like you telling me once a month you just get a get out of
It's
kindness
n
card. You just
it's
get to just be irritated and just be like, I'm sorry, it's just that time of the month. I'm
what
like,
really sucks
and
is
you
that
can't control it?
it feels like they change, but in actuality, it's us that changes. We just can't help it. But that's really frustrating because it really feels like it's all you changing
Yeah.
and I'm still the
And I'm
same.
like, I'm still the same. That's all you and the
It's
chemicals inside your
it's
body that's
not
all changed.
fair.
That's
It's
messed up.
go
That's
back
messed
to
up.
love.
All right. And it says it does not rejoice about injustice, but it
Mm.
rejoices when the truth wins. Love never gives up.
Whew.
Right here. Right? First Corinthians 13, right? Chapter 13, verse 7. Love never gives up. It never loses faith and is always hopeful and endures through every circumstance.
It's good.
So when we talk about love, when we talk about the foundations, in your marriage, in your relationships, and you're saying like, man, we should just, let's make one of love like one of our core values, or fully understand what love is. Love doesn't give up. Love endures throughout the hardest times. And for us, we decided to say, man, like God will be the foundation of everything in our relationship.
Yeah.
And honestly, not even just in our marriage, just anything that I do, we do it out of love.
Yeah.
So if I'm a part of something, if I'm part of a project, organization, or group or anything like that, if I entered with it with love, then I have to apply all these things. I'm going to endure,
Yeah.
right? Tough circumstances, not give up,
Yeah.
not going to be irritable,
Right.
right? And so those are the three biggest things, man. But that foundation part right there, I mean, I know we said it last, but that's the most important thing that I wish that when we were younger, we would have actually read through this more.
Or like just dug deeper.
Yeah.
Like I'm so grateful God was a part of our foundation. And it's true. We wouldn't be sitting here today without him in that foundation. I just wish we would have dug a little deeper
Yeah.
and clarified, hey, here's our foundation. And that when life circumstances get hard, when seasons get rough, when we go through changes personally on each side, that we could go back and say, hey, don't forget when we said I do, these were our foundations. And the foundations weren't to have kids or to buy a house or to get a car or to make a lot of money. Like none of those were the foundations.
Yeah.
I wish that we would have dug deeper and said, this is the foundation and that's it, period. Like nothing else.
Yeah.
And whatever comes along with that and whatever God blesses us with down the road and whatever that looks like, we'll be so grateful and thankful. But at the end of the day, this is the foundation. This
Yeah.
is why we're doing this.
This is why we're doing it. I want to encourage you guys to continue to dig in your relationships. Continue to dig in every situation that you're in right now in your life. Like apply these factors, right? Maintain your identity. Don't forget who you are. Don't forget why you did what you did. Don't forget why you said yes to your relationship, right? And that second one was communication is key. You need to apply communication. Like if you're thinking it, find those that you trust and share it with them. Don't wait till it's time for you to make a move, make pull the trigger that you finally verbalize. Communication is key. It allows other people to come alongside you. Share with them your flaws, share with them your weaknesses, right? Find the people that you trust and communicate those things. That third one is establish a strong foundation. For us, our foundation is in God and God is love. That's the biggest thing. And through love, patience, like it's all the good things, man. And so I want to encourage you guys to continue to keep digging, continue to keep finding the gold and find gem, and we're gonna do it too.
Let's keep digging. I love you. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, babe.